Okay, good morning. Today is Friday. It is the second day of Cheshvan, and we continue in Tanya, in chapter 25, letter 25 of the Alter Rebbe's letters, Igeret Hakodesh. It was a long letter, and today we're talking about dealing with difficult situations, dealing with difficult people. We actually spoke about it in the last few lessons. It seems in a way also connected very much with today, which, as we said, it's the second day of Cheshvan. Today is the first day that we started to daven, to pray the tachanun, the prayers that we say in the mundane days, not in the holidays. Almost a whole month. You had a month of the holidays. We didn't say this prayer, the confessions, because it was like we felt we lived in days that are celebratory days, holidays and festive days, and in those days you are like on high. But then comes a time that you have to go back down to reality and deal with reality, deal with this world. And today is the first day. Yesterday was Rosh Chodesh, was the first day of the month of Cheshvan. Obviously, Rosh Chodesh itself is also a holiday. But today is already the second day of the holiday. So today is the first day that we say the tachanun, the confessions, and basically saying that we are dealing with reality, with this world, with all the good, bad, and the ugly that it offers. So in this chapter, as we said in the last few lessons, the Alter Rebbe was dealing with explaining a statement that the Baal Shem Tov said, which was not understood by those who opposed the Baal Shem Tov, and they made a big deal of it. And he said that what happens when a Jew is in the middle of prayer, middle of doing something good, and then a goy comes and talks to him and interrupts him and tries to interfere. So the Baal Shem Tov says he should know that this guy, God also, is in him and in his words. And the Misnagdim didn't understand, and they started saying, "Well, how could he say such a thing? That Hashem dwells in the guy and this and that." And here comes Alter Rebbe and he gives a whole explanation. Basically, he says that if you believe that Hashem is everywhere, everything is Hashem, then you have to understand that even in the lowest places, even in the goy, Hashem is there. Except we have to understand what's going on. Why is it there? He's not going into the whole explanation, but he gave us in this chapter, in this letter, he gave us the understanding how Hashem brings His essence into the lower worlds, and He's in us. He vests His essence in every Jew, and even in the non-Jew. There is the essence, there is the presence of Hashem. Except that this, when it comes to situations that are not helpful in helping us in serving God, then the purpose of being there, says the Alter Rebbe, is in order to make us stronger, to bring within us the feeling and understanding that there is a purpose why God went so low to put himself into the lowest places, into the guy that tries to stop you from doing the right thing. Obviously, the reason is to bring out, just like when a person is pushed to the corner, then the best is going to come out of him. Sometimes, we're doing, Friday. People are busy running, preparing for Shabbos. And the summer days, you have long days, you have time. Somehow, the summer days, the winter days, you always end up exactly before Shabbos candle lighting time. Everything is finished and the Shabbos table is set. Sometimes it's a little short time, but you're in pressure. You're doing so many things that you couldn't do it in a regular, an ordinary day. You say, "Oh, this takes an hour. This takes 2 hours." But under pressure, you're doing it. You're doing it faster. You're doing it better. Maybe not better, but definitely brings out bigger when sometimes the pressure brings out the inner powers that you have. And this is what the Alter Rebbe says: when you see a situation, when you see a challenge, you see difficulties, don't get scared. Don't say, "Oi, what did Hashem do to me?" Realize that this is something that is there to make you stronger, to bring out the best that you have. So let's see inside today's lesson in the Tanya, what the Alter Rebbe says. Says the Alter Rebbe, "Ve'achar advorim ve'emes ha'ele agluim ve'yeduim lakoil." Says after these words and these truths, which are manifest and known to all, nachzer le'inyan rishon be'inyan hakas shehu ke'oved avodah zarah. It says, let us return to the original subject concerning anger management, where a person who is angry is likened to an idolater. So we explained why. Because if you get angry, it's like you're saying that something happened is because this guy did it to me. Instead of realizing that really everything what happens comes from Hashem. If you would really think so and understand this, that everything is from Hashem, then you wouldn't get angry. If somebody did something wrong, yes, you have to take him to court, you have to take him to Beis Din. But to get angry get angry about the situation, that is likened to idolatry. You're denying God. However, says the Alter Rebbe, you have to differentiate. To say that, oh, everything is from God and everything is nice and everything is good, I'm not going to do anything about it, that is not always the case. And he says, "V'hainu b'mile de alma." This is only with regard to mundane matters. Ki hakol b'dei shamayim chutz mi'ira shamayim. Because everything is in the hands of the heaven except for the fear of heaven. So when it comes to fear of heaven, meaning to say, oh, I'm not in the mood to do the mitzvah today, so okay, this means Hashem doesn't want me, no. When it comes to matters of yirat shamayim, fear of heaven, this Hashem put it in our hands. So therefore, says the Alter Rebbe, so if you see something happens, some mundane thing, some material problem that you have, then you say, okay, this is from Hashem. But when you see a situation that calls for you to intervene, a situation, a spiritual situation, someone is doing something in the wrong way, is not doing the right thing, whether it's you, whether it's a friend, a child, you can't just say, okay, that's from Hashem. You have to get involved and do everything what you can. Even when it comes to a point of acting in a way like it seems like you get upset about it. And we'll clarify this. So let's see first what the Alter Rebbe says inside, then we'll clarify. So v'lachem b'milei d'shmaya le'afrusha mi'isura lo shayach hai taime de'amoron. This is with respect to heavenly matters. It says to ward a fellow Jew from transgressing a prohibition, to stop another Jew from doing something wrong. the reason stated does not apply. For these matters are not in God's hands, but in man's. And as it is written, Vayiktzef Moshe, and Moses was angry. So obviously, Moses is not going to do something that is equivalent to idolatry, God forbid. So when Moses got angry, or at least he appeared to be angry, is because this was a situation that Moses felt that something was done wrong and he needs to stop it. Says the Alter Rebbe, "V'aynu mishum ki ikro lefanav mitzvah zu le'afrusha me'isura kedei lezakoise." This is because God caused him to encounter this mitzvah of warding a fellow Jew from transgressing a prohibition in order to make him meritorious. And the same thing is with every situation. When you see a situation that you need to stop, yes, you should use whatever you can to stop it. And there you cannot say, okay, this is in the hands of Hashem. Having said that, obviously, we're not saying that when you see a child doing something wrong, you should get angry, start screaming at them, because to know how to teach children, educate children, we have to understand that the way to do it is in a good way, in a positive way, in a loving way. The Friedrich Rebbe writes, there's a whole book he wrote, Klolei Chinuch V'Hadracha, the laws, the rules of education and guiding. It says sometimes it talks about the teacher. Some teacher make the mistakes thinking that if they're going to be passionate to the children and say, hey, you do this and do this, and sometimes you see even it has an effect on the child, and the child takes it seriously and starts crying. He gets scared from all the description, what you tell him how terrible it is to do so. Says the Friedrich Rebbe, you're absolutely wrong. You think the child is affected in a positive way. Yes, he may start crying, it may affect him, but this is not going to change him. The impression that he will get in the long run will be a terrible one. In order to get the child, you have to really go down to his level and bring him in and understand and doing it in a loving way. So this is obviously not what he's talking about here. What he's talking about here, showing anger, obviously is in a situation where sometimes, in a certain situation, where you have to put your foot down and you have to be firm. And so in that case, it says you can't just say that, okay, it's whatever it is, whatever it's good. It is, you have to do whatever you can. If a situation calls for being firm, then you have to do that. And that's not the way in general to educate a child. But anyway, that's beside sidetracked. So continues the Alter Rebbe and says, it says, but this applies only when one is able to prevent transgression by his wrath and anger against his fellow man. In such a case, he is permitted to become angry, as did Moses. If you know that this is what's going to stop a person right now, then yes, sometimes you can do that. But what happens when a situation comes and you have challenges and you have difficulties that really there's nothing you can do about it? For example, he says, like a goy comes and interrupts your davening, your prayer. Says the Alter Rebbe, "Aval kashein beyodei limchos kegoy nochli amedaber umebalbel betfilasai." However, when he's unable to change the situation, as in the case of the heathen, who talks and confuses him while he's praying. When someone comes and interrupts you, And you would say, "Imkein ma zois osa Hashem loi." So the question then arises, what is this that God has done to him? I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to pray, and all of a sudden the guy interrupts me. I'm trying to keep Shabbos, and all of a sudden this happens to me, that happens to me. So all kind of challenges that you have in your life. And you ask him why. And there you can also you tend to get angry about this. Says the Alter Rebbe, what is it that you should do? Ein so is you understand ki im kedei sheizgaber veis ametz yoyse bitfilosoi beoimek halev bekavona gdoila kol kach ad shelo yishma diburei anochi. Says this is so only in order that he prevail and strengthen himself over ever more in his prayer from the depth of his heart with such intense concentration that he will not hear the Gentiles talk. To Hashem wants you to really concentrate. So the challenge that you see is in order for you to concentrate even more, so you don't hear him. Not easy. What will cause you to really go and do the right thing and get yourself to more concentration and do the mitzvah in a better way? Says the Alter Rebbe, however, for such a level, one needs a great and intense arousal. It's not going to come just like that. And the Alter Rebbe gives us advice. He says, the counsel suggested to attain such an arousal derives from this very subject. What does it mean? So the Alter Rebbe is going to explain. When you think about it, when we spoke about the concept that Hashem dwells in our speech reflects Hashem's speech. Speech is about God's revelation. And when the speech goes down into the goy, that means Hashem went down so deep, so low. So this is what is called a galus hashchina, a bitter exile for the God's presence. God himself lowered himself into such a low place to go into the goy that tries to stop you from doing the right thing. That is what you should think about. Why does Hashem go down so low? It is such a bitter pity, so to speak, on Hashem, God, that he dwells in this low place. It must be for me to become stronger. It says, one should consider and meditate on the concept of the descent of the Shekhinah, the Hashem's presence, as it were. How it descended in wondrous fashion, to have a spark of its radiance invested within the klippas, the shells, the impurity. It is generally in a state of exile among the klippas in order to animate them. And now, what is now? Meaning when the guy talks and tries to stop you from doing the right thing, a spark of its radiance vests itself in a particular state of exile. It's not just a regular exile for the Shekhinah. It is a particular, more difficult and lower exile to God's spark, the spark of Hashem's presence. Where bedibur nochrizeh, in the speech of this Gentile, amedaber dvorim amebalbelim avodas Hashem, hi kavonas atfila. When this Gentile that utters words that disturbs one divine service, meaning one's devout concentration during prayer. As explained above, that God created this opposite to oppose the Kedusha, to oppose the holy side, the balance. Hashem creates also the other side. Thus the supernal speech vests itself in the never speech and so on. That means that Hashem's speech is vests itself into this Gentile speech that tries to stop you. This is indeed the meaning what we said yesterday. The verse that says that that man rules over man to his detriment, meaning the man of above is ruled by the man below, by the evil, but ultimately it's to its detriment, meaning he tries to stop you, to interfere, to disturb you from serving Hashem. But what's the result? Yes, temporarily, he feels like he won. He got you distracted. But then, when you take this, and you deal with it in the right approach, and you wake up within yourself a deeper, stronger will and a stronger concentration in the davening, then who caused you to daven better? This guy. This guy, in these words that tried to stop you, that caused you to daven better, to get closer to Hashem. That is why it's to his detriment, to the detriment of the klipis, of the other side. That's what Alter Rebbe says. Dehainu shalidei ze meseirer odom lispalel yoyse bekavana me'umka deliber. This is so to say, that through his meditation, the individual is aroused to pray with greater devotion from the depth of his heart, until he will not hear the Gentiles' words. Yes, you can concentrate so much that you shut out everything around you. So this is the explanation what Alter Rebbe gives. Now, Alter Rebbe points out one more thing. This is what caused the people that opposed the Baal Shem Tov to object to this statement is the general idea, but also one word was really lost in translation. And that is, in the book where it says about this situation for the name of the Baal Shem Tov, the book called the Tzavo Asarivash, the living will of the Baal Shem Tov, which is not a living will, it's just a collection of teachings that the students collected. So when it says about this situation, it says the Baal Shem Tov says that the Shechina Shorsa dwells in the Goy. So the Alter Rebbe says that this word Shorsa, which means that it dwelled, that the Shechina dwelt in it, that is not the exact word the Baal Shem Tov used, because the Baal Shem Tov didn't speak in Hebrew, he spoke in Yiddish. What the Baal Shem Tov said, it was that Shechina is vested in it. Because the concept of the God's presence dwelling is an idea of God's presence being like in a state of revelation. And that you cannot say by the Goy. But the Goy is not revealed. Hashem is vested there and clothed itself in a state of exile, not in a state of dwelling on a way of godly being revealed. So that says this particular word, says the Alter Rebbe, was not exactly translated. It said, Mashikosav Amalaka Choso, as to the compiler of the Tzavas Harivash, using the word Shorsa, meaning that the Shechina dwelt, Lo Yoda Lechavein Aloshin Bedigduk, he did not know how to determine the precise term. Ki Abal Shem Tov Zechoyne Levracha, Haya Oima Divrei Torah Beloshin Yiddish. V'loi b'lashon HaKodesh, because the Baal Shem Tov, of blessed memory, used to deliver Torah teaching in Yiddish, not in the Holy Tongue, not in the Hebrew language. V'rotza lo ima nislapsho. He really meant to say nislapsho, meaning that he vested. So this is what Baal Shem Tov, that Shechina vested itself into the Goy, v'ainu b'chinas golos, whereas that nislapsha means that the Shechina was in a state of exile, and that's why the Baal Shem Tov says there, v'zeu bifrati munochi. That's why the Baal Shem Tov says that, and especially if the one that interrupts you is a Goy, is a Gentile. If it would be about God revelation, could you say that Hashem is revealed in every person, especially if he's a Goy? Obviously not. A Jewish Hashem is revealed even more. But the fact, what he's saying here, that the Shechina vested itself in a state of exile, then you can say, and especially if he is a Gentile that tries to interfere in your service of Hashem. For then it is much more in exile. And finally, here today, the Alter Rebbe brings out one more point, and it says that how could you call this part of Hashem that is in the Goy, you call it the Shechina? Shechina means Hashem's Shechina, the God's presence. How could you call it Shechina? Shechina means like referring to Hashem. How could you call that spark Hashem, the way he's vested in a Goy? Says the Alter Rebbe, that's not a problem. We find it in many situations in the Torah that even an angel is called God. And obviously an angel is less than a spark of Shechina, of Hashem's presence. So if you can call an angel God, certainly the spark of Hashem you can call Shechina. And that's what Alter Rebbe explains. There is no need to wonder at a spark of the radiance of the Shechina being referred to as Shechina, the Ashkechon, because we do find Shafilo Malach Nivro Nikra B'Shem Hashem Parashas Vayero, the Pirush Rambam, that even a created angel is referred to by God's name in Parshas Vayera. This is the story of Abraham when he saw the angels and he referred to them and he said, Vayemer Hashem al notave ma'alavdecha. So we could say my masters, he spoke to my master, but the Nachmanides, the Ramban explains that he referred to them, he knew that they were angels, and he referred to them as God. Why? Because an angel that carries out God's mission can be referred to as God. So we refer to even to the angels as God. Why is that? Because an angel is completely nullified to Hashem when he carries out his mission. Similarly, we also find another case in the Torah that an angel is referred to as God. We find it by the story with Hagar. When Hagar met the angel, she called him God. It is written, and Hagar called the name of God, who spoke to her. And there's many more cases like that. Why can an angel be called a God? Because an angel is completely nullified to Hashem. The example that is given in another place is like a king who's wearing a crown. And sometimes it gets hot, it gets heavy, he wants to take off the crown and put it away for a while. So he has his servants next to him, but he's not going to put it on the servant's head. But if there's a hook in the wall, he's going to put it on the hook in the wall. Why wouldn't he put it on the servant's head? Because if he puts it on the servant's head, the servant may think for a second that he's king. The hook in the wall will never think that he's king. The angel is so nullified to God, like the hook in the wall. He doesn't feel as any selfish existence. So that's why the angel of God can also be referred to as God. But again, so the message we get from this lesson today is about how we deal with the situations. Realize that everything is Hashem, even the most difficult situations, is about making us stronger. And especially now that we entered into the year, the month of Cheshvan, the mundane days, we are dealing with the situation, and Hashem should help us. So we should be able not only to go in a good way, but to be able to transform everything and to bring the coming of Mashiach very soon. So, thank you so much for joining today. We'll continue Bezrat Hashem Sunday morning. All the best. Have a wonderful Shabbos.
Thank you, Rabbi Cohen.